in the quiet moments of our lives. When the world around us slows down, we often find ourselves facing something unexpected. A stillness. It may come at night when everyone else is asleep, or in the early morning hours when the day has not yet begun. These moments can feel uncomfortable, even unnerving. Most of us will try to ignore them or fall back to sleep, dismissing the silence as an inconvenience. But what if I told you that this very stillness, the calmness that seems to interrupt your sleep, is actually a gateway? A gateway to something deeper. What if the hours that seem to disrupt your peace are, in fact, moments meant to guide you back to your center, to help you connect with something greater than yourself? This is the concept we are going to explore today, the awakening hour. The awakening hour is a term used in Buddhist philosophy to describe a sacred moment that many of us overlook. Those early hours when the world is still and the mind is most vulnerable. It's in these moments of quiet that true spiritual transformation can occur. And today, I want to guide you through the potential of this unique time. Imagine waking up at 3 a.m. The house is quiet, and the world outside is still. Most would consider it an inconvenience, a time to try and fall back to sleep. But what if I told you that in this stillness lies an extraordinary opportunity for personal growth? It is in the silence that we can face our minds without distractions. It is here that we can reflect, meditate, and open ourselves to clarity, peace, and insight. Buddhism teaches that everything, even our suffering, is impermanent. The quiet moments, especially those that seem most inconvenient, are temporary, and they hold immense power if we learn how to harness them. This sacred time, the awakening hour, offers us a rare chance to align with the universe, to listen to our thoughts, and to connect with the wisdom that lies deep within. In this video, we'll explore how to use this time to cultivate peace and mindfulness. We will discuss practical techniques for turning what may seem like an unwanted interruption into a transformative practice, from focusing on the breath to releasing attachments and reflecting on our intentions. We'll learn how to use this quiet time to develop patience, compassion, and a deeper awareness of ourselves. But more importantly, we'll explore how to shift our perspective on these moments. Instead of seeing them as disruptions, we can embrace them as precious opportunities for spiritual awakening. So, I invite you to stay with me as we explore how the awakening hour can be used to awaken not only our physical bodies but our minds and spirits as well. By the end of this video, I hope you'll see these moments of stillness not as interruptions, but as opportunities to connect with your true self and to deepen your mindfulness practice. The awakening hour, between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. In many spiritual traditions, certain moments of the day or night are seen not just as times of rest or sleep, but as opportunities for divine intervention, insight, and reflection. One such period is between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., which, in Christian thought, is often referred to as the fourth watch. This is a time when God is believed to speak most clearly, offering divine guidance and wisdom. But from the Buddhist perspective, this time is not merely a chance for a spiritual awakening, but a moment of deep mindfulness and inner connection. It is in these early hours, when the world is still and the distractions of the day have not yet taken hold, that we can truly begin to hear our inner voice. At its core, the awakening hour offers us a rare chance for spiritual reflection. The noise and chaos of the day have not yet begun, and the world remains in a deep, serene silence. This is the moment when the mind, free from the usual demands of daily life, can settle and become attuned to a higher consciousness. For those on a spiritual path, this silence is not empty. It is filled with the potential for deep self-awareness and clarity. From a Buddhist perspective, mindfulness is the key to understanding our true nature. It is through mindfulness that we can begin to observe the fleeting nature of our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. The Buddha taught that life is impermanent, And in order to truly understand the nature of existence, we must be present in each moment. The awakening hour offers the ideal conditions for such mindfulness when the mind is calm, unburdened by distractions, and open to spiritual insights. When we wake up during this time, we often find ourselves feeling restless or frustrated. We may wonder why we are awake at such an hour, and whether it is simply a disruption to our sleep cycle. However, this is where the Buddhist teaching on awareness becomes particularly relevant. Instead of fighting against the stillness of the night, we can choose to embrace it. Instead of seeing sleeplessness as a negative experience, we can recognize it as a spiritual opportunity, a chance to turn inward and explore the deeper layers of our consciousness. Consider the teachings of the Buddha, who emphasized the importance of self-reflection and mindfulness. According to Buddhist thought, every moment offers us an opportunity to cultivate awareness. Whether we are walking, eating, or simply sitting in silence, we can practice mindfulness by fully engaging with the present moment. The awakening hour is no different. It is a time to reflect on our lives, to take stock of our inner peace, and to ask ourselves the questions that are often overlooked during the hustle and bustle of daily life. This is where practical examples can help illustrate the power of this moment. Take, for instance, the story of the renowned Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, who often spoke about the power of mindfulness in everyday life. One of his most famous teachings was about being present, whether in meditation or in the simplest of activities, such as drinking a cup of tea. He spoke of the importance of being aware of the present moment, and how this awareness can lead to a deep sense of peace and insight. In a similar vein, we can look at the life of Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple Incorporated, who often practiced mindfulness techniques to enhance his creativity and focus. Jobs was known for his ability to think deeply and embrace moments of stillness, often taking time in the early hours of the morning to clear his mind and reflect. His ability to tune into his inner thoughts and intuition allowed him to make bold decisions and create innovative products. While his practice was not explicitly Buddhist, it mirrored many of the principles that the Buddha taught: mindfulness, self-awareness, and living with intention. Another example can be found in the life of the Dalai Lama, who has spoken about his early morning meditation practices and how they help him connect with his spiritual self. For the Dalai Lama, the awakening hour is a time for deep reflection, prayer, and connection with the divine. In his book, The Art of Happiness, he discusses the importance of quiet moments for cultivating compassion, insight, and inner peace. His practice shows us that the stillness of the early morning is not just a physical phenomenon, but a spiritual one, a time to center ourselves and reflect on our true nature. Spiritual lessons and personal reflection. As we explore the significance of the awakening hour, it becomes essential to understand how this time offers a unique opportunity for spiritual growth and personal insight. Waking up in the middle of the night, especially during the quiet hours between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., can often leave us feeling disoriented, restless, or frustrated. In our modern, fast-paced world, when we find ourselves awake at such an inconvenient hour, the first instinct is often to check the clock, sigh in frustration, and try to fall back asleep. We may wonder, why am I awake? What's wrong with me? Is this a sign of something deeper? But from a spiritual perspective, these moments are not accidents. They are invitations to engage in mindfulness, a moment of grace where we can reflect on our lives, our struggles, and the deeper aspects of our consciousness. This hour of stillness, when the rest of the world is asleep and the usual noise and distractions are absent, creates a perfect environment for deep inner reflection. During the day, we are constantly surrounded by external influences, sounds, people, technology, and our own busy thoughts. These distractions pull us away from our inner truth, leaving little room for contemplation. But in the early hours of the morning, we are given the rare opportunity to look inward, to experience a calmness that isn't influenced by the demands of the world. It is during these moments of quiet that we can reconnect with our deepest selves. I recall a personal experience when I woke up in the middle of the night, feeling a sense of unease that seemed impossible to shake. First, I was frustrated by my inability to sleep, feeling as though I had failed in some way. The more I tried to fall back asleep, the more restless I became, and the more this restlessness seemed to intensify. However, after some time, I realized that this sense of discomfort was not a mistake. It was a signal, a prompt for me to pause and reflect. As I lay there in the dark, I allowed myself to simply be in the moment, without judgment or frustration. I stopped resisting the experience, and instead, embraced it as an opportunity. And as I did so, a sense of clarity began to wash over me. In the silence of the night, my thoughts began to settle, and I was able to gain insight into struggles I had been facing in my waking life. This experience served as a profound reminder that sometimes, the most powerful moments of insight come not in moments of action or achievement, but in moments of stillness and surrender. In Buddhist teachings, mindfulness is considered the cornerstone of spiritual practice. The Buddha repeatedly emphasized that true liberation arises from being fully present in each moment. Free from attachment, judgment, or distraction, awareness, in its purest form, is the key to overcoming suffering and cultivating wisdom. It is through mindfulness that we can begin to observe our thoughts and emotions without identifying with them. Instead of reacting to the emotions that arise, we learn to simply observe them, acknowledging their existence without being consumed by them. This level of awareness allows us to return to a place of inner peace. Even in the face of difficulty, the awakening hour is a sacred time for this kind of awareness. In the deep silence of the night, when everything is still, we can turn inward and begin to listen not to the external sounds of the world, but to the voice within. It is the time when our thoughts can settle like dust in water, and we are left with a clarity that is often not present in the busyness of our daytime lives. In Buddhist practice, this quietude is not just a time of rest but an opportunity for mindfulness and self-reflection. This is where mindfulness in everyday life intersects with the deeper teachings of Buddhism. The Buddha's teachings remind us that every moment is an opportunity for mindfulness. Whether we are eating, walking, or sitting in meditation, we can be present and aware of our thoughts, actions, and surroundings. The challenge is to be fully present, to observe without judgment, and to cultivate compassion and understanding toward ourselves and others. The awakening hour is an invitation to practice mindfulness in its most profound form, when there is nothing else but the present moment. It teaches us that every moment of our life holds the potential for awakening, and that we can choose to embrace the present moment as it is, without resistance. A personal story of mindful reflection. Consider the story of a Buddhist monk who faced a deep spiritual crisis. Troubled by doubts about his path, he could not find peace. One night, unable to sleep, he decided to take a walk in the forest. With each step, he reflected on his doubts, his fears, and his uncertainties. Walking deeper into the forest, the monk asked himself, "What is it that I truly seek?" His mind swirled with questions, but the deeper he walked into the silence, the more his thoughts began to settle. Eventually, he came across a lotus flower blooming in the moonlight. This simple, serene sight struck him deeply. The lotus, emerging from the dark and muddy waters, symbolized purity and wisdom rising above the darkness of ignorance. The monk stood there for a long time, contemplating the beauty of the flower. He realized that his answer, his clarity, was not something to be found by searching externally or by grasping for answers. It was in this moment of stillness, in the quiet of the night, that he had a breakthrough. Wisdom often comes in these quiet moments, when we let go of our distractions and simply allow the world to unfold as it is. The monk recognized that the clarity he sought was always within him, hidden beneath the surface of his confusion. It was only through the practice of mindfulness and stillness that he was able to access it. This story is a beautiful illustration of how moments of reflection and mindfulness, particularly during the awakening hour, can offer profound insights into the deeper truths of life. The lotus flower is a symbol of spiritual awakening and enlightenment, and just as the lotus rises from the mud, so too can our inner wisdom emerge from the depths of our confusion and struggle. The power of acceptance in the early hours. The key lesson here is acceptance. When we wake up in the early hours of the morning, we may initially feel frustration or resistance. However, by accepting the situation as it is, we open ourselves to the possibility of learning and growth. In Buddhist philosophy, acceptance is not about resignation but about embracing life as it is, without attachment or judgment. When we learn to accept the present moment fully, we release the need to control or change it, and in doing so, we cultivate peace. During the awakening hour, this principle becomes particularly important. Rather than resenting the interruption to our sleep, we can embrace the quiet solitude as an opportunity to connect with our deeper selves. By simply sitting in stillness, breathing deeply, and observing our thoughts, we can begin to transcend the restlessness that often arises during sleeplessness. In this way, we can turn an ordinary, frustrating experience into a profound moment of spiritual practice. Mindfulness as a path to clarity. The practice of mindfulness during the early hours of the morning does not just lead to personal reflection, but to a deeper clarity. The teachings of the Buddha remind us that clarity arises when the mind is free of distractions, attachments, and desires. When we take the time to pause and reflect, we can gain insight into the deeper questions of our lives. The awakening hour offers us this chance to reflect on what truly matters: our values, our desires, and our connection to the world around us. By embracing this time of stillness, we allow ourselves to reconnect with the inner wisdom that resides within all of us. Ultimately, the awakening hour serves as a powerful reminder that wisdom is always accessible to us. It is not something to be found externally, but something that is always present within. When we practice mindfulness, we become more attuned to this inner wisdom, allowing it to guide us in our daily lives. Through the lens of Buddhist philosophy, this sacred time in the early morning can become a transformative experience, one that deepens our understanding of ourselves and the world, and brings us closer to the peace and clarity we seek. Practical advice for embracing the fourth watch. The awakening hour, a time when we find ourselves unexpectedly awake during the deep stillness of the night, can be viewed as a sacred opportunity for spiritual reflection rather than a disruption. Rather than resisting the discomfort of being awake when we long for rest, we can embrace this time as a moment to connect with our inner self and the present moment. This time can be transformed into a meaningful spiritual practice, where stillness and mindfulness are key. When we wake in the middle of the night, our minds are often filled with racing thoughts, concerns about the future, unresolved emotions, or the restlessness of being awake when we desire sleep. Instead of allowing these distractions to dominate, we can use the awakening hour as a space to calm the mind and deepen our awareness. By practicing meditation, prayer, or simply sitting in silence, we open ourselves to clarity and insight. A powerful method to ground ourselves during this time is to focus on the breath. When the mind is agitated, returning to the breath brings us back to the present moment. Begin by taking deep, slow breaths, inhaling through the nose, holding for a moment, and exhaling slowly through the mouth. Each breath is a reminder to let go of distractions and return to a place of calm. With each inhale, imagine drawing in peace and clarity. With each exhale, release tension and restlessness. This practice of mindful breathing can help quiet the mind and bring us into a state of mindfulness, creating space for deeper reflection. One of the essential teachings in Buddhism is the concept of letting go of attachments, whether to thoughts, emotions, or outcomes. During the awakening hour, we can practice observing our thoughts without judgment or attachment. This time provides a rare opportunity to witness our thoughts with equanimity. Instead of clinging to worries or desires, we can simply notice them as they arise, allowing them to pass through the mind without attachment. This practice fosters detachment, allowing us to experience peace despite external circumstances. The awakening hour is also an ideal time for self-reflection and setting intentions. With the world quiet and the mind still, we can connect with our inner self and clarify what we want to focus on in the day ahead. Ask yourself questions like, what do I want to cultivate today? Patience, compassion, presence. This time allows us to check in with our deeper goals, ensuring that we align our actions with our true values. By setting an intention, we create a purposeful direction for the rest of the day, helping us navigate challenges with clarity and mindfulness. Many spiritual traditions, including Buddhism, recognize that early morning hours are a time when the veil between the material and spiritual worlds is thinner. This makes it an ideal time to connect with inner wisdom. Through quiet reflection, meditation, or prayer, we can access a deeper sense of clarity and guidance. Often, the questions that preoccupy our minds during the day find their answers in these moments of stillness. The answers we seek are often already within us, waiting to emerge when we create space to listen. The power of silence and stillness during the awakening hour cannot be overstated. In a world filled with constant noise, silence offers a rare opportunity for clarity. In Buddhist meditation practices, silence is seen as a portal to wisdom. By entering this silence with openness, we create the conditions for insight to arise naturally. The practice of sitting in stillness invites a deeper connection with ourselves, offering a space to reflect on our emotions, desires, and spiritual path. In conclusion, the awakening hour offers a profound opportunity for spiritual growth, mindfulness, and self-reflection. By embracing this time with awareness and presence, we can transform it from a moment of restlessness into a sacred ritual. Through focused breathing, letting go of attachments, setting intentions, and connecting with inner wisdom, we can deepen our spiritual practice and cultivate clarity in all aspects of life. Instead of viewing the awakening hour as an inconvenience, we can see it as an invitation to align ourselves with our deepest truths, bringing more peace, clarity, and purpose into our lives. As we reach the conclusion of today's exploration, I hope you now have a different perspective on the awakening hour. What may have once seemed like an inconvenient disruption can now be understood as a sacred opportunity for mindfulness and spiritual growth. The stillness that arrives at the quietest hours of the night or the early morning is not something to be feared. It is something to be embraced. In a world that constantly demands our attention, these moments of quiet become rare and precious. It's easy to feel restless when everything around us slows down. But it's within this restlessness that we can find the peace we're searching for. By embracing these quiet moments, we allow ourselves to step away from the chaos of our thoughts and into the stillness that can guide us back to our true nature. By practicing mindfulness in these still moments, we begin to reconnect with our inner wisdom. We reflect on our intentions, cultivate patience, and develop compassion not only for others but for ourselves. It's through these practices that we find lasting peace, not in the future or in some external achievement, but in the present moment. Remember, peace does not require perfect conditions. It simply requires presence. Whether it's in the middle of the night or the busyness of the day, the peace you seek is always available. The key is learning to tune in, to let go of distractions, and to welcome the present moment with an open heart. Before I conclude, I want to leave you with one final thought. True peace isn't something that can be found outside of us. It is something we create within ourselves. In every moment, Whether it's the middle of the night or a quiet morning, the time to connect with your true self is always available. The awakening hour is a precious opportunity to do just that. If you found this video helpful, please take a moment to like it. Your support helps spread the message of mindfulness and spiritual growth to more people. If you think someone you know could benefit from this teaching, please share this video with them. It may be exactly what they need to hear. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you'll be joining a community of like-minded individuals dedicated to cultivating peace, wisdom, and compassion in our lives. You'll be the first to know when we release more videos that dive deeper into Buddhist philosophy, meditation, mindfulness, and personal development. I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you experienced the awakening hour in your own life? How do you use those moments of stillness to deepen your spiritual practice? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. I read every one of them and would love to connect with you. Thank you for joining me today. May you find peace in every moment. And may the awakening hour lead you to a deeper understanding of your true self. Until next time, may you walk the path of wisdom with an open heart.